Welcome back, Sunday Society, to another episode of Taking Back Sunday. It is a breezy day outside today.
Yes.
Weather has been gorgeous, but I feel like it's about to get really cold. I think I saw by the weekend we could have snow again.
I want it to make up its mind.
Snow MG.
Make up your mind.
I want it, and I will deny this, but I'm ready for summer.
Yeah.
I hate being hot, but gosh darn it, I need the sun to come back.
I'm okay. I just don't like mosquitoes.
Oh yeah, that's true. I did see one. I was sitting outside and there was one on my leg and I said, oh no, it is too early for this.
Yeah. Ew, mosquitoes.
I saw today that we have not had a single snow yet in February, and that hasn't happened since the 1800s, 1892.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was like,
I'm sure it's coming though.
I hope so. If it's going to be cold, I want it to be snowy. That's my only rule, Mother Nature. If you're going to be cold, give me something pretty to look at. So that's my only requirement. Cool. Something that we're going to talk about today is one of my favorite topics. I really enjoy learning about this, talking about it, kind of discovering it in other people. And that topic is emotional intelligence. Sometimes it's referred to as EI or EQ. We'll probably use that abbreviation in this episode because saying emotional intelligence is a lot of syllables to say over and over again. This is defined as the ability to recognize, understand, manage, and use your own emotions positively, while also perceiving and influencing the emotions of others. This kind of sounds like a superpower. You can read minds, but it's like you can read emotions. It involves 4 core skills. You've got self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. So awareness and management, those are the 2 big words here. And these all reduce stress, improve communication, and enhance decision-making. So today, Hannah and I are going to talk about all things, we're going to talk about all things emotional intelligence. And hopefully we can come out of this with our own superpower starter kit. So grab your coffee, get comfy, and let's take back Sunday.
Okay. So what is emotional intelligence? According to Mental Health America, emotional intelligence, or EI, is the ability to manage both your own emotions and understand the emotions of people around you. There are 5 key elements, which we kind of, I think you touched on.
I touched on 4.
Okay.
So I can't wait to hear this mystery 5th one.
Okay. There are 5 key elements: self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills.
Okay.
People with high EI can identify how they are feeling, what those feelings mean, and how those emotions impact their behavior and, in turn, other people.
Love.
So we're not so much as knowing what other people feel, but we are definitely knowing how we feel, how it affects our behavior, and how it affects our interactions. It's a little harder to manage the emotions of other people. You can't control how someone else feels or behaves. But if you can identify the emotions behind their behavior, you'll have a better understanding of where they're coming from and how to best interact with them.
I feel like I need to go to my room and get a book really quick and show you guys this book that is all about what you just said. It's the Brene Brown book, Atlas of the Heart, and it digs into kind of where emotions typically come from. Anger can come from mostly fear, and things like that. So honestly, it's a great book.
I have kind of looked at it when I was in your room a couple of times and was like, oh, this is interesting. The emotionally intelligent are highly conscious of their own emotional states, even negative ones, which I like that, because this isn't just a positive. We're talking about negative too. From frustration to sadness or something more subtle. They can identify and understand what they are feeling, and being able to name an emotion helps manage that emotion. Because of this, the emotionally intelligent have high self-confidence and are realistic about themselves.
I love it. I like the giving the name to the emotion. I think I'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But it's important.
I think about this in the sense that there are people that I'm drawn to. And I think I'm drawn to people who are confident and they are realistic and they are willing to own their things and also kind of, understand how they work, how they operate. And so I thought about this. I'm like, I think I'm attracted to, in the sense of wanting to be around people who are emotionally intelligent.
Yeah, they're great to be around because you don't ever feel like they can't handle like certain situations, and you know that you could talk to them without them flying off the handle because they have a grip on who they are, and they have that confidence and that self-awareness that, okay, I know that there's probably a chance that I did something wrong, and I'm ready to listen and own it.
Absolutely.
As opposed to never me, instead of the not my kid, it's like, okay, never me. Yes, people who have a high emotional intelligence are genuinely and generally great to be around.
Yeah.
You don't ever feel like you have to walk on eggshells.
It is.
Around them.
Yes, I agree. So being self-aware or aware of others is a lot of responsibility, but certainly can set apart an average person and a great leader or human.
Clock it. And speaking of leaders, we're also going to talk, I'm going to talk real kind of a high level overview of how having emotional intelligence can impact you in the workplace, but also in your relationships, like your personal relationships. So we'll talk first more like the professional side and then kind of segue into the personal side. Because in my opinion, you need to have a high emotional intelligence at work and at home. I also looked at Mental Health America to see kind of how mental intelligence looks in the workplace. And it is, again, the ability to understand and manage your own emotions and recognize the emotions of others. That is an important part when we talk about relationships. There are the 5 key components. We have self-awareness, which is knowing your emotional state, knowing what triggers you, and patterns that you have with behavior. I like to think that I'm fairly self-aware. Even if I don't act on it, I'm like, I know this is crazy, but I still feel this way. There's the self-regulation, like you said, and that's managing emotional reactions before acting on them. The motivation, using emotions to stay energized and purposeful. I wish that we could bottle that up because I need some motivation. Empathy, which we know is understanding how others feel, and social skills, which we know what those are. Emotional intelligence overlaps also with strong interpersonal skills. So workplace relationships, especially in communication and conflict management, which are both essential at work. I mean, you got to think, how often do you communicate with people at work? All day. You have to be able to have conversations effectively. And there is no perfect world where you never have a conflict with somebody at work. Those places just don't exist in the real world. So you have to know how to manage those also effectively. It's an interview question. How do you handle conflict in the workplace? Everybody knows that it's an essential skill. Employees with a high EI, that's all I think. So I'm going to say EQ. Employees with a high EQ tend to avoid reactive impulsively and instead think before acting. And we've talked about this before. The classic respond versus react. Like, are you responding to this situation or are you just reacting based on those neural pathways that you have created over years and years of a learned behavior?
Absolutely, yeah.
Being able to interpret others' emotional cues helps you respond in ways that make your coworkers feel understood and respected. And that's an important factor for teamwork and collaboration. It makes, I would feel like if somebody, and you kind of talk about this with like how you text me sometimes, like you're aware of how I will feel.
Yep.
If something is said a certain way.
Yeah.
You acknowledge that and you make sure that you just make those little changes.
I'm mindful.
You are.
In the way that I send messages because I want to be clear and I want to be a clear communicator at the end of the day. I want you to know what I mean and mean what I say. And I don't want there to be room for misinterpretation.
Yeah. And that's, the fact that you kind of alter your typical interaction patterns for someone else to feel like they are understood, that's a sign of high emotional intelligence. I mean, if you didn't care you wouldn't do it. You'd still send K all the time or sure all the time. You'd be like,
I did send sure
I
the
know you
other
did.
day.
And I was fine with it.
And I was
like, I know.
oh my gosh. Afterwards, I was like, I think I said sure.
No, you did. But I was like, whatever. I don't care.
Yeah.
Because I know you. You know, if it's anyone else, I'm like, they hate me. But I think that this also kind of brings up another point where it sounds like, and I feel like this sometimes, that what this means is that you have to like walk on those eggshells and like read the room. Children who grow up in homes that are not super emotionally safe, where there's a lot of fighting and conflict and loudness, the kids tend to learn how to read the room and navigate their emotions and interactions based on what the adults are feeling. I don't want anybody to hear that that's what this is. That's not what emotional intelligence is. That's survival of like understanding, you know, if your parent is in a very bad mood and you might get physically abused as a result, you adjust how you act to protect yourself. That's not what this is. This is learning how to interact with people effectively to where you both feel respected and understood. So I did just want to make that distinction. This is to help meet your colleagues where they are in order to collaborate successfully, and your peers, you know, not just your colleagues. And it's not exclusively applicable to your colleagues. Emotionally intelligent leaders are also more self-aware, objective, and humble, and they balance that with empathy, which improves morale, productivity, and workplace culture. I want you to think about all of the bosses that you've had in your life. The ones that you would consider, I want you to think the ones that you would consider really good bosses versus bosses that had some room for improvement. Where did they fall in this emotional intelligence spectrum? Did they have a high emotional intelligence or did they have a low emotional intelligence?
I would say they had a high emotional intelligence.
Yeah, I've talked on here a million times about how fortunate I've been that all of my bosses have been leaders. They haven't just been management. They've been people who are leading their team to be better and acknowledge that they are a part of that team. And I think it directly correlates with them having a high emotional intelligence. I also found a review in the National Library of Medicine. There were 7 studies that were done. Some of them, the first 4 of them were about emotional intelligence in the workplace, and the last 3 were personal relationships. So that's going to be like our segue into the impact that EQ has on personal relationships. So the authors examined the link between emotional intelligence and interpersonal relations. In studies 1 and 2, the participants with higher scores for EQ had higher scores for empathetic perspective taking and self-monitoring in social situations. In study 3, the participants who had the higher scores for EQ had higher scores also for social skills, which makes me think I have very bad social skills, but I like to think that I make up for it in the other areas. In study 4, the participants with higher scores for emotional intelligence displayed more cooperative responses towards partners. And I think that partners is used in the workplace and at home. And I like that cooperative responses, like you are responding to be a partner versus a foe. Like you are responding to help solve whatever the issue is, as opposed to add to the problem. The last 3 studies, again, like I said, focus on personal relationships. So in study 5, the people who had higher scores for the EQ had higher scores for close and affectionate relationships. In study 6, the participants' scores for marital satisfaction were higher when they stated that their partner had higher emotional intelligence, which tracks. If you can communicate effectively with your partner, you're going to feel more affectionate towards them. And in study 7, the participants anticipated greater satisfaction in relationships with partners having a higher emotional intelligence. So overall, it's great to have a higher emotional intelligence. It makes you feel heard. And then you also get to hear and learn. Like it's not just about understanding other people. It's also about understanding yourself. So there's an article in Psychology Today that high emotional intelligence strongly correlates with relationship satisfaction. Shocker. Couples where both partners have a higher EQ reported fewer conflicts, greater satisfaction, and more commitment. And I kind of talked about it, but why do we think that is? I mean, you're in a long-term committed relationship. Why would you think that having a high emotional intelligence in both partners would lead to less fights, more satisfaction, and better, more commitment?
I think it's because both people are not only aware of their selves and their emotions, but they are also trying to meet the other person where they're at and understand their emotions. There are a lot of people that walk this earth that know nothing about what they're feeling and they just go on vibes.
Yeah.
And if they're mad, you know it, but they don't know why they're mad. If you're happy, they love it, but they don't really understand why.
Yeah.
And then when they go to interact with somebody, they do not care how the other person feels about what they're saying, what they're communicating, how it's interpreted. I mean, we all know that person.
Yeah.
That's like, I am the way I am.
And I'm never going to change. This is who I am.
And I say what I say. And, and that's fine and good. Say it with chest, but it's not effective.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. You have the right to feel and say whatever you want, but there are also consequences to how you act.
I had a meeting with a lady who was encouraged and kind of pushed towards senior living because of a hoarding situation at home. And so I asked her in that conversation at one point, she's very frustrated. And I asked her, can I be honest and not sugarcoat something with you? And she was like, yeah. And I said, you are not the only person that deals with this issue of needing or wanting to purchase things and fill whatever space that you live in full of things. You are not the only person. This is not something that is uncommon. But it is a concern. It is a safety concern.
Yeah.
And while I understand why you're frustrated with your daughters, the concern is that it is not safe because of the continuing filling of whatever space that you live in with items that are not always needed. And while I don't think it made her any happier, she could see in that moment what the intention was of her moving. Your communication doesn't always have to make people feel good, but you do need to share responsibility in the way that you deliver that message. Yeah. So I shared that message with her in a way that was respectful and as kind as I possibly could without losing what I was meaning by in that message.
Yep. That's called tact. Yeah. I think Winston Churchill maybe has a quote that's like, you should tell people to go to hell in a way that makes them want to go there. I think that's a phrase. I could have made that up. If it's not a phrase, I made it up and I am quoting it right now. No stealing that. But it's a quote similar. Like, you can deliver bad news and negative information without attacking people or making them feel isolated or in a way that's going to make them feel bad.
And within that conversation, I explained that I understand you're frustrated. I understand that feeling like you can't make your own decisions would be frustrating. I imagine that if I was in your shoes, I would feel frustrated.
Yeah.
The fact is that it is a safety concern, and that is why we are where we are right now.
Yeah.
She didn't leave that room feeling defeated, or at least didn't appear to seem defeated. She wasn't happy.
Yeah.
But there is a way to do this when it's not positive and it's not friendly and it's not good news.
Yeah. And not necessarily conflict either. You weren't fighting with this woman. So I think that
honestly could just tell she was having a hard time. Yeah. And I just thought we need to have,
you met her
you're
where
going
she
to
was.
need to have tough conversations.
Yeah.
In your life. It's going to happen. And to be able to do that in a way that you care enough about a person that not sugarcoating it and saying the truth, not lying, not misrepresenting what you're trying to do, but also do it in a way that you care, that they feel that they're validated with their feelings I feel like this goes for sales too. You can complain to me and I can validate that you feel frustrated or upset or whatever, but it doesn't mean I'm going to say that what my product or my company is at fault. You know what I mean? Like it's that same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
I think that is important to acknowledge that the negative conversations don't always look like conflict. There are going to be those hard conversations that don't require a conflict.
Yep.
They just require like, hey, this is just how it is. So this article goes on to explain that emotional intelligence can shape dynamics in a variety of ways. And recognizing your own emotions helps you communicate your needs, set boundaries. We love a good boundary, and avoid isolating behaviors. So partners with mismatched EQ may struggle to understand each other's emotional cues. Being able to manage your emotions also reduces escalation in conflicts. And, conflict is everywhere. Partners who can soothe themselves tend to be more flexible and responsive rather than reactive. So if you can self-regulate and kind of acknowledge what's going on prior to having that conversation, it makes a world of difference. And I think that it's okay when you are in, like somebody says something out of pocket to you in your relationship, you can say, that's a lot. I need to think about this, or I need some space to react. Like, you don't have to immediately react to something. You can take space to think about it.
And I need some space to respond.
There you go. I need to process what you just said and come back to you from a place of understanding and calm.
Listen, grown Hannah be trying to not respond until I've thought about it. And there have been times in my life that's taken me days to think about it and to get back with somebody. And then there are times where I do react and then I'm like,
we're human, man.
Why did I do that?
Yeah. We all be popping off at the mouth sometimes. I do it all the time with my family. That's where I have the least amount of emotional intelligence is with my family. But so speaking of like conflicts and relationships, How I Met Your Mother, Marshall and Lily, they would say pause in the fight when it got too like crazy. They would say pause. They needed space, and they would then just go on with their lives, and they would unpause when they were both in a calmer place. And I was like, this is great. Because it wasn't ever one of those things where you say, I need time, and then you never address it, because that's not healthy. That's not good.
Nope.
Understanding a partner's emotions builds closeness. So lack of empathy can create disconnection, especially if one partner learned to suppress emotional expression. Using emotions to motivate action keeps individuals proactive in personal goals and within the relationship. So relying too heavily on a partner for motivation is going to lead to imbalance or, quote, parent-child dynamics. Like, I'm not your mom, I'm not your dad, I'm your partner. You have to have a certain level of motivation in yourself. And then finally, effective communication, listening, and conflict resolution skills are essential emotional intelligence skills that support healthy relationship interactions. So I do think that it's important to note that emotional intelligence is not fixed. It's not something that you either have it by a certain age or you don't. It can be developed through effort and awareness. Increasing this can enhance relation satisfaction, reduce conflict over time. And I'll talk in a little bit about how you can kind of develop that emotional intelligence. But we talked a lot, like in the workplace and in personal relationships, there are conflicts everywhere. So do you have, like, what can you say about like conflict resolution with emotional intelligence? How does that help?
So I think that, with conflict resolution, you have to go into it like at your baseline. Like, you cannot start that process without being at baseline.
Yeah.
Anything that's going to heighten you is going to then probably cause more conflict than needs to be.
Yeah. So like if you're at a 7, a 3 is going to set you over the edge.
Exactly. Yeah. So, with conflict resolution, if you are, I feel like with in my professional world or whatever, really being able to start out the conversation by offering some piece of self-awareness of like how you might have, like, whether it's I noticed this or I feel like I did this and it upset you, and I'm trying to understand why that is. So kind of putting it as an I and not a you.
Yeah.
And then that opens a door to the other person seeing like, okay, so this person's trying to look at themselves as well. And it's not, they're not just pointing the finger at me. When it's between two people and you're the mediator, then at that point, I like to talk about like, okay, so this seems to be the issue. Here's the issue. Now I want to hear what you have to say. And then I want to hear what you have to say. And let's come to a common ground. Let's try to figure out where we can meet in the middle here, because life is full of compromise. And it can't always be. There can't always be compromise.
That's true.
But a lot of times there can.
Yeah.
So just being able to, I feel like the most successful conflict resolution that I've ever been a part of is where I try before I even begin to understand where my place is in this.
Yeah. How do you fit?
How do I fit? Yeah. And what can I own? You know, if it's that I haven't set expectations clearly, that's fine.
It's that taking accountability part.
If I haven't set boundaries because you have crossed those boundaries that you didn't even know were there, whatever it might be, if I didn't set clear expectations, if I had a hard morning and I was frazzled and I was short with you and you took that as some kind of that I was unhappy with you and it wasn't meant to be. Yeah. All of those things start with me.
Yeah. And it can be very disarming too. Like when you say, I want to understand.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just a very powerful sentence.
Or help me to understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Because I already know where I'm coming from.
Yeah. Help me help you.
Yes. So I think that is key. And it takes the defensiveness of another person and they feel like they can kind of bring their wall down a little bit.
Yeah.
So, I think when it comes to conflict, one of the most successful things is a person that is highly emotionally intelligent is not impulsive and they don't have those hasty actions. They are critical thinkers. They are reflectors. They are slow to react, slow to respond. And it usually works. When I do it, it usually works in my favor.
Yeah. I think there's a saying, there's a reason God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth.
Yes. They think before they do. And I love to do that. I love to sit and think before I make a decision, before I say something, especially when it's emotionally charged. I'm not perfect. And I have, especially in my safe circle, I will allow that emotional charge to react quicker than,
Well, and the older we get, I feel like the better we get at regulating ourselves and like acknowledging, I need 5 minutes to think about this. I need a day to think about this. I might need a week. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
The older you get, I think the more aware of it you are.
So I really want to say, like, conflicts are not always a bad thing. They're inevitable, not always a bad thing. It's how you handle it that's important. And whether it's in your marriage or in your workplace, getting it wrong can lower productivity.
Yeah.
Whether it, like I said, personally or professionally, and it can cause tension and it can damage the relationship. It can damage a team morale. It can damage your relationship with your boss or with your coworkers or with people that you are supervising. Yeah. So examples of conflict resolution is the pause principle. So this is where we bring in the self-regulation. Instead of reacting angrily to somebody's criticism, you take a deep breath, pause, and manage emotions before responding to avoid impulsive, harmful comments. Like I said, it's a lot easier when you're not in that your safe place with your safe people, because that's where I find that I don't think about it as much, which is silly. Because we should care for those people just as much or more.
That's what I mean, like with my family. Like my emotional intelligence is 0. Like if my parents get me going, I'm like, all bets are off. I have the intelligence of a toddler at that point. Because I don't know, just something about the people that you feel the safest with. You're like, I can say whatever I want to them and they're still going to love me. But that's not true.
Yeah. The next one is going to be active listening. So that's where empathy comes in. In a disagreement about finances or anything like that, a partner needs to listen without interrupting, summarizing the other's concerns. So, for example, it sounds like you feel stressed about our savings, to make them feel understood before offering a viewpoint.
Yeah. Acknowledging it without being patronizing.
Yes. Validating feelings, which we've talked about, social awareness, acknowledging the feelings, even if we disagree, by saying, I can see why you were upset about this, even though I see the situation differently.
Yep. Because you're allowed to have a different opinion.
Mm-hmm.
You're allowed to feel differently about the same situation.
I statements offer effective communication instead of accusing, which we did talk about, like you never help with chores, or you never get your your email to me on time. I statements to express feelings. So I feel overwhelmed when the house is messy and I would appreciate help on the weekends. Or I feel overwhelmed with not having the information I need for my meeting when I don't have the email on time. De-escalating with tone.
I wanted to talk about the I statements real quick, because when we were in middle school, our school counselor, I remember, taught us I statements.
She did?
We thought that was the stupidest thing I'd ever heard in my life.
When I feel,
yep,
yes.
We would make fun of it. We would joke about it. Like, I feel sad when you look at me like that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so silly.
Yeah.
As an adult, I'm like, dang, that is powerful stuff.
It is. It was a foundation she was trying to build on to teach
lesson.
us. Yes.
I take back all of the jokes that I made about the I statements. I apologize, middle school people.
So de-escalating with tone and body language. During a heated argument, you can use a calm voice, maintaining open body language, which, if you don't know what that is, this is not open body language. That is showing me that, or showing whoever that I am closed off, that I don't care to hear what you say, and that I am defensive, and I'm not open to hearing anything that you have to say. When you talk to somebody and you offer up open body language, typically you're relaxed, your shoulders are relaxed, you're facing them. You can even look down and then look back at them, but your hands are either on your lap or even open. I sometimes will even kind of sit with my hands like this. Probably not the best. So anything that's not crossing your body off is going to be an open body statement. Not even crossing your legs, because crossing your legs can also seem that way too.
Like closed, yeah.
Closed.
Which that sucks, because I sit like this for comfort.
Yeah.
Like in the car.
Same.
I'm chilling like this in the car.
Yeah.
I've had people say, what is wrong with you? I'm like, nothing now, or nothing yet, but keep asking.
Also, tone, because I can say, I love you, and I can say, I love you.
Yeah.
The tone is completely different. It matters. Tone matters.
Like thank you versus thank you.
Yeah. So watching how you speak, and then also speaking slowly and clearly, not like, are you stupid? But making sure that the message that you're trying to give is
received.
Yes. Asking for like being like, does that make sense? Or do you understand what I mean by that? Or do I need to clarify? Because sometimes you do, and some people don't want to ask. And I feel like I would rather clarify or say it a different way to make somebody understand. If I'm speaking, there's a purpose.
I'd be misunderstanding things all the time. So I need all the clarity.
So then seeking mutual solutions. So we're moving from I need to win this argument, I need to win whatever, to how can we solve this together?
Yeah.
We're going to brainstorm and work as a team versus working against each other. And then apologizing specifically, instead of a general I'm sorry, use emotional intelligence to acknowledge specific actions. I'm sorry I raised my voice. I know that made you feel ignored or unsafe.
Yeah.
Using humor to de-escalate. So employing gentle humor, not sarcasm.
Read the room, right?
To lighten the mood and reduce tension when a conflict becomes too intense. I use this all the time on my husband.
Yeah.
Things will get a little dicey and you're like, oh, we're not. And then I will throw in just a little bit of humor to like, let's move off of this heavy subject and kind of lighten it up. It's never to make fun of somebody or what they're saying and to not be sarcastic, but just to lighten the mood a tad. Yeah. I do this at the end of hard conversations at times with my employees. Instead of being like, okay, thank you, there's the door.
Yeah.
I'll be like, say something that kind of lightens the mood and directs that conversation if we're ending and we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
So, we've talked about how to, de-escalate conflict, but honestly, if we're talking about conflict, we know that it's when 2 or more people don't agree on something. There's an argument, or even if there isn't an argument, like some people would think, we have a matter of incompatible thoughts, feelings, or actions. So there is some kind of disalignment. And while there are lots of different conflicts, the main ones are going to be, in a workplace's task, relationship, and value. So task conflict is usually directly relating to the person and what they are doing. So tasks that you do at your job. These are pretty simple to resolve. There can be deeper issues, but they're pretty simple. So say at work you have 2 employees who are working on a project and there's some conflict and who should be doing what or whose idea they should use for whatever project. That's a good place for you to mediate that task conflict and be a third neutral party.
Yeah, for sure.
And get to the root of the issue. So there might be some competitiveness there. There might be different visions of what the outcome is. And having a mutual third party is really good to just kind of bring everybody back to the center and say, but this is the goal.
Yeah.
And how do we get there? Yeah. Relationship conflicts going to be a little bit more difficult. And, taking the time to work with 2 people and work on that conflict resolution with the task conflict can really help in the future for the same reasons, because those people are probably not going to have that same issue if we figure out how to resolve it then. The more dicey one would be relationship conflict. This is going to be due to clashes in tastes, personality, style, and even conflict over how the other person handles conflict. So you in a workplace especially, and in relationships, people come from different lives. They have different personality traits. All of those things that don't quite align are going to cause conflict.
Yeah.
So
the stakes are higher at home.
Yeah. And with work, you put a whole bunch of people together who probably aren't going to normally socialize out in the real world,
True. Yeah.
So it's no surprise that there's going to be conflict. An example of a relationship conflict could be if you and a colleague have a different lifestyle and had a disagreement about a hobby you enjoy, which is causing tension in your team. You can try extending an olive branch by asking them to sit with you at lunch to get to know each of you a bit better and to find what you do have in common. So that's something that would help with that. Finding out that you grew up in nearby towns or that you share the same views on an organizational process or something can improve your relationship and make working together more enjoyable. I always like to say we're more alike than different.
Yeah, find common ground. There was a class that I took in college where it was like finding your, it was finding your connections through your differences, basically. Is what it was.
So yeah, when we're more comfortable with each other and we understand each other on who we are, we usually understand a little bit better. We're a little bit more forgiving if somebody has like a weird trait or whatever. And as long as it's not harming you or whatever. And then the last one is value conflict. And it refers to disagreements on politics, religion, ethics, and other core beliefs.
Yeah.
This is generally why most organizations prefer not to talk about highly divided topics. It tends to be the most emotional one, as people tend to feel very strongly about their values. For example, one of your clients, has ties to a certain political party, and a few of your team members are against working with them. You have to have one-on-one chats with each team member to give them an opportunity to privately air their objections. You raise some of the benefits of working with this client, which you know will appeal to your coworkers and bring everyone together. So, in this, you will really have to lead the charge on what's acceptable, what's not, and remind people that, yes, while this value isn't the value of yours, they bring things to the table. Conflicts that are unresolved can linger after the discussion or argument has ended. Unresolved conflicts can cause a lack of productivity and collaboration, as well as reducing creativity and even loss of skilled employees. So it's going to affect that morale.
Yeah, 100%. And especially if there's a conflict and they don't feel supported by management in that resolution. The manager's like, figure it out. It's not going to be good.
What I do know is effective leaders are very emotionally intelligent. In the workplace, it's important for leaders to be self-aware and able to view things objectively. This translates into understanding your strengths, your weaknesses, and acting with humility. There has to be a balance, though, with empathy. Employees who feel appreciated and valued at work aren't only happier, but they're more productive. So acknowledging, people, acknowledging situations, also having boundaries and expectations kind of set you up to be a good leader. I also want to add that while I was doing this research, there wasn't a lot of talk about teachers. And so I added this. Outside of the research that I was looking up, teachers are also effective leaders. They're effective leaders of their classroom. So if you listen to this and you're a teacher, I feel like instead of saying your employees, you're going to think your students, because that is probably the hardest job environment to be in. Because you're not dealing with adults. You are dealing with children who do not have long-term thinking processes in their brain yet. Their brain is not set up to do that. They're highly emotional. They're not logical. Yeah. Depending on the age, you have different factors. They bring things from home that they wear heavy every day, or maybe they don't. Maybe they have a great home life. They don't want to be away from home. That's Brinley. She wants to be at home all the time. She hates being at school because she'd rather be at home with her family, who she loves. Yeah. But either way, effective leaders of classrooms are those teachers.
Yeah. And it's when you find, it's not hard to spot the teachers that don't have a high emotional intelligence, because those are the teachers that engage in the arguments back and forth with the students. That's such a, it's like that power struggle.
Yep.
You can't get into those power struggles with kids because they're not on the same level as you. They don't have the emotional intelligence. They don't have the general intelligence. They don't have the emotional regulation. They're going through puberty. It is your job to model what a conflict resolution or a conflict should look like.
Listen, teachers, if you have a student that has a little bit of emotional intelligence, or just picks up on things very easy, my 10-year-old will tell you what teachers deal with power struggles and which ones don't. She can pick up the teachers that are good, effective leaders and the ones who will go down to that child's level and try to argue with them. And it's amazing to hear that from a 10-year-old's point of view, that she picks up on that.
Yeah. Like
those kids are picking up on if you're going to sit there and argue with them.
Yeah. And they're going to goat you right into it.
Absolutely.
I promise you that. And
don't do it. Be strong.
I know that you want to. I know you want to tell these kids where they can go. Don't do it. Stay strong, teachers. I believe in you.
Yes. So
that was a good addition. It's a good viewpoint.
I definitely felt like when I was reading this, it felt like we were talking about corporate America. I also feel like this can apply to leading your home.
Yeah.
So if I am a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home dad, and my job is to care for my children and care for the household, this applies to you too.
Even if you don't, it applies to you.
It does. Yeah.
How else are they going to learn?
Yeah. But it didn't say anything about teachers. And I was like reading it and I was like, how are we not comparing teachers leading a classroom and conducting conflict? Your conflict
All
with
day
kids
long.
be having conflict every day, all
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
So I felt like I had to add that in there because I felt like it was going to get missed if we didn't. And I'll be honest, I could never be a teacher. I think I've said that before. It's a very important job, and it is well underpaid. And also, I think not a kind of a thankless job. I mean, I think that teachers have people who tell them, thank you, you're doing great.
Of course. But overall,
a thankless job. So
well,
if my kid's bad, then it's your fault. And that's the society we live in.
Yeah, that's the really crazy shift that has happened.
I don't want to be able, I can't manage my child at home, but I expect you to manage them at school.
Oh, not my baby.
So, thank you, teachers, for being effective leaders in the classroom and shaping the minds of young children. And I mean, that's the generation that's going to be taking care of us. So,
oh no, just kidding. I will say I do miss it. There are a lot of parts of the classroom that I miss, and that's kind of one of them. Is not necessarily the conflict itself, but like being able to show them and like work through conflict with them in a productive way so they can see what that looks like. That it doesn't have to be we're screaming back and forth at each other. It can be like, I hear what you're saying. I understand. In the beginning of the school years, I would always say that I advocate for open two-way communication. I will be open with you, and I expect you to be open with me. Like, if you don't like the way that I said something, or if you didn't understand the way I taught something, I want you to feel comfortable enough to tell me.
Yeah.
And so we can resolve it. And it's funny. It's not funny. It's ironic, again, that you mention education, because that's where my next source is the National Education Association.
Yeah.
To talk about how you can develop that emotional intelligence. These are some tips that the NEA kind of provides. Pay attention to your emotional responses. Notice what triggers you and your feelings and how you react, even in everyday situations like traffic. Oh, Lord. Or emotional scenes in media. Journaling can help increase that awareness. And I will say certain scenes in shows trigger me more than others, Don't let an animal die. Oh, my Lord. If I watch Game of Thrones. Like, I see people get sliced in half all the time, but you tell me that the dog died, I'm turning the show off. I need to recognize what's going on with that. But work on self-management. So practice flexibility and adaptability to prevent emotions from derailing you. Taking deep breaths, resting well, exercising, setting goals, and persisting through challenges help regulate emotional reactions. And that persisting through challenges is what's going to build that resilience in kids too. Be empathetic. We know what that means. Nurture your relationships. So managing emotions improves those interactions with other people. If strong feelings arise without clear cause, take that pause and consider your response. So it's like challenging the thought. What is making me think that? Like you talked about in the, oh my God, what was that episode about?
Oh, mindset?
Mindset. Yeah. Like with the mindset, question the thought, challenge the emotion, question the emotion. Where did it come from? And including any biases. Being empathetic helps others feel understood and supports forgiveness. Make decisions responsibly. So thoughtful decision-making rather than reacting in anger or stress leads to more constructive outcomes in conversations and relationships. Taking time to consider consequences fosters better solutions and clearer communication. So don't make your big decisions. Don't make permanent decisions based on temporary feelings. Like, it'll be okay. And you can do a quick Google search and find all kinds of key strategies. Again, labeling your emotions.
Well, okay. So I literally, as soon as you said Google search, I thought about this. So sometimes we can't figure out what the emotion is. And you can search feelings. And it will give you a huge chart of feelings.
Yeah.
Sometimes being able to look at words and be like, frustration, no, I'm not frustrated. Angry, I'm not angry. Sad, I'm not sad. But then you see something that's like anxious or fearful, and you're like, ooh, maybe that's what's fit. Being able, it's okay to not know.
Yeah.
go and look at a list and say, okay, and I know that in different avenues that I've been in with children, especially in foster care, that was always something that they wanted to work on.
100%. Yep.
Is acknowledging and figuring out what the emotions are and what emotions mean. Because happy, sad, mad is typically the only emotions that kids can say. Well, there's
a lot
fear,
of layers
there's
to
confusion, there's anxiousness, there's uncertainty, there's all kinds of different things that aren't angry, mad, sad.
Yeah.
Oh,
those are
angry, happy, sad.
I knew what you meant.
I'm sorry.
And that's a good baseline when they're young. You know, it's great to be able to identify, but how can we build on that?
Yeah.
There's a program called Zones of Regulation, I think, that we would use in some of the special education classrooms that I was in, because students who have autism sometimes can't identify their emotions or understand how to regulate themselves. So we would use this curriculum to kind of help teach them what different emotions look like, how you act when you feel those certain emotions, and how you can regulate yourself.
Thanks.
So yeah, it's a great curriculum. So like you said, the labeling your emotions to move beyond bad or good, be more specific, like inadequate or skeptical, to better understand kind of that internal state. There's the 3 breath rule. When experiencing intense emotion, take 3 slow breaths to pause before reacting. Active listening, we've talked about. People watching. Observe people in public places to learn about nonverbal cues, to kind of see how other people react to certain things. I do too. I love it. I am messy. Seek feedback in like relationship management to build better connections. Ask for feedback on how your emotions and actions affect others. I mean, the Harvard Business School said that that's the way to do it. So, yeah, those are, I'm not going to list all of them because we're all grown adults that can look it up on Google and use our resources. Speaking of, one of the resources that I talked about was this book, Atlas of the Heart by Brene Brown. It's mapping meaningful connection and the language of human experience. And it really does just dig into your emotions. I mean, regret is the one I have bookmarked. I think we know why I have that. But it really is worth the read. It digs into like all of the connections between the emotions and why people feel the way they feel. And it's worth it. It's worth the read.
So I think one key point I want to touch on is just that just because you might not have a lot of emotional intelligence doesn't mean that you're less than, or if you do, that you're better than. It's just, we're all in this process of life and we're learning. And so if you feel like you aren't able to pick up on things, or you don't know how you're feeling or what's causing you to feel ways, I just feel like that's an opportunity to learn more about you. I feel like the more we learn about ourselves, we learn more about others.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's a good point. That's what our challenge is for you. Yeah. Try to be self-aware. Think about how you can be more emotionally intelligent this week. And that's all we've got. So be mindful, be kind. I'm Bianca.
I'm Hannah.
And we are
Taking Back Sunday. So a lot of people will ask, what is emotional intelligence? And I'm going to tell you. Oh, your phone is in my view.
Oh, no.
Mine over a little bit. Oh. I just realized that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Much better.
Yeah. I was like, oh, wait a second.
Yay, a blooper.
Something's wrong.
A fun blooper. Nobody messed up. I did. Oh, it just flew right by me. I have no depth perception in these wigs because, like, my peripherals are all. Ooh! I'm not hitting it. Bro. Being able to interpret others' emotional cues helps you respond in ways that make coworkers feel understood and respected. Are you? Is it the fly? Yes.
He's back.
He's back. They're here. Gosh.
Sorry.
That's okay. Make decisions responsively. Responsively. It's not a word.